morning, setmates. Grab a seat around the campfire. Tonight we are playing some more Heart of the Forest, the still very excellent game from Different Tales. Once again, in case you weren't here before, the concept, of course, is that this is a visual novel in the setting of Werewolf the Apocalypse, which happens to be my favorite setting of all times. The last several weeks, we've been going through the early chapters of the game. We've done several playthroughs of the demo, which is the first chapter of the game. And as of last week, we have gone through chapter 2 for the first time, now that the full game is out. And tonight, hopefully, we will be able to progress beyond chapter 3. Maybe even get into chapter 4, which is where the meat is. Chapter 4 is something. Well, 3 and 4 really go hand in hand, I would say, but we'll see if we get there. Before I start the game, I can click on continue so it loads. But there were a couple of things I wanted to discuss quickly before I move on to playing the game per se, because there were a few announcements this week about the World of Darkness that I wanted to share and make sure that everyone has heard about. The first is a new game that is actually already out. It's called the Orpheus Device. Despite the name, it's not an Orpheus game. From what I understand, it is actually a Wraith the Oblivion game. If you're not familiar with Wraith, it's awesome. Probably my favorite setting in the World of Darkness after Werewolf. But it is bleak as hell. It is not for the faint of heart. Essentially, you play a wraith, a ghost, essentially. So you're dead from the start. So not a lot of hope there. You're already dead. So that part is done. Now you get to live a second life. From what I understood of the Orpheus device, the concept is that you get to talk to ghosts. The game actually works with essentially assistant AI type things like Alexa and such. Unfortunately, I tried to get it to work, but I was unsuccessful, sadly, so I don't have a lot to say about it. But maybe by next week I'll be able to get it to work and I'll let you know more about it. But from the looks of it, essentially, it's kind of like this game in the sense that it's narrated to you in the form of people talking to you in character and now and again stopping to give you a choice. The way they're going to talk to you, they're eventually going to end by saying, do you believe in this, yes or no, for example? And you can say out loud, yes, no, and the ghost will hear you and continue the story based on your choice, on your dialogue, an ongoing dialogue with an AI-controlled ghost. It sounds awesome. It sounds creepy as heck from what I've seen. I was in a chat room when they announced the game, and I've seen Outstar play it a little bit. There was a short 5-ish minutes where you could see her play. It sounded awesome. I really would like to try it if I can eventually. Unfortunately, the only device that I have is my phone right here, my Android phone, and I tried to get Alexa working, which I did, and when I asked her to boot the game, she said, I don't know what that is. So obviously I'm doing something wrong, but I'll try to figure out what that is eventually so I can give the game a try. The other thing that got announced this week is a game that's actually not even titled yet. So for now, it's known as Vampire the Masquerade Battle Royale. It sounds like it's going with the most recent trend in video games of Battle Royale games, kind of like Fortnite, but put in the Vampire the Masquerade setting. they seem to be at least trying to give an excuse so that it fits with the universe. I didn't really follow the logic there, but it's taking place in Prague, and there's a blood hunt going on. For some reason, that explains why 50 or so vampires are killing each other to death. I don't know much more than that. But I'm willing to try to, hear more about the game before I reserve judgment. Quickly, I'm not very enthused personally, on a personal level, because I'm just not into battle royales. But a lot of people are, and if these people get to know Vampire through a battle royale and they happen to love the game, then yay for them, quite frankly. It's nice that the current owners of the license are trying things. That's always something I'm going to encourage. So while this is probably not a game for me, I will wait and see. I'm gonna give it a try. I'll keep an open mind and at the very least watch gameplay videos, maybe a couple of streams. If it looks cool, yeah, I'll probably try the game. We'll see where it takes us. So those were the two big things. I'm still watching Into the Motherland, which is still pretty cool. If you followed the last several weeks, that's a new game that's coming out, which is coming from the heart of the Black community, which banded together a group of good influencers, essentially, from the Black community, banded together, and people of colors in general. Sorry, not just Black. To make a game that would feel different, and I think they've succeeded. From what I've seen of the actual play that is going on right now, it sounds pretty damn cool, and I'm looking forward to buying the books and getting to know more about it. Who knows? So I'm gonna take a quick drink, and then, because I'll be talking a lot tonight, reading a lot of things, this chapter is longer than chapter 2, so I'm thinking we're probably not going to be able to do it in 2 hours, talking like I usually do. I'm going to make sure that I stay hydrated, because I'm going to need it. Alright. So who do we have in tonight? Oh, not a lot of people are here yet. That's fine. That's fine. We're gonna get started slowly and see who joins us. So to recap, while people are... Oh, no, Nomad is here. Oh, I think my... Oh, I can't trust what my chat window is saying, because it says no one's here yet. But no, obviously Nomad is here. I'm sorry, man. I did not see you sitting by the fire. All right, cool. So we do have people. Excellent. It's just easier with people because if you haven't been here before, people around the fire get to choose what I do in this game. So we'll see where we go. Perfect. Cool. But still, I'm going to recap quickly. The last time we went through chapter 2, which is the chapter where we go to the logging site where there are some protesters who are trying to make a difference. Trying to stop the logging that's happening with the Biało Wieże forest. And we got to know the characters that we didn't get to know in chapter 1. If you remember, there are 2 paths through chapter 1. You've got the forest and you've got the city, the village. So we went in the forest, so we met Cornell and Danielle. And in the city, you get to know Kim, you get to know Olga, and you get to know another character, Lisa. In neither of those paths do you get to know the character of Pat. If we look here, we can see the character names here. Pat here is a character that is just not very developed from what I can see in any of our playthroughs. We did get to see her a little bit last week. For the first time in any of my playthroughs, she had some actual screen time. Not a lot of it, but a little bit, because essentially we've discovered last week that there are 2 werewolf packs. One of them is led by Cornell, and the other one is led by Olga right here. And they don't agree on what to do. Olga is trying to be a bit more active, a bit more violent, a bit more, I'm going to use every tools in my arsenal to deal with this situation. Of course, we're not supposed to know they're werewolves yet. It's rather obvious, so I'm saying it out loud, but the game has not revealed that yet. So when she says any tool in my arsenal, she means fucking everyone's shit up in Crinol's form. And Cornell, right here, despite being ex-military, despite being a man who's actually been to war, is actually saying, well, let's not start a war. Let's be more reasonable about this and find a better solution. And you can choose, essentially, which paths you're going to take, in the sense that who you're going to support. And last week, we decided to side with Cornell, which gave us an opportunity to get to know Pat a little bit more. She showed us some maps, the same maps that she was told to show Olga, but the game didn't actually develop that bit. She just like, oh, hello, see, here are the maps, now you should go. And that's all it did. I wish that had been stretched out a bit more, that we'd get to know Pat a bit more and figure out what the deal is with the maps, but nope, apparently not. So, I mean, in the grander scheme of things, it doesn't matter. The game will continue and evolve, and the maps won't really be much of a thing for the rest of the playthroughs. So it's perfectly fine. But at the moment, it seemed like they were getting somewhere, and I wanted to see what that was, but we didn't get to. We also discussed for a rather long time about inclusivity in Werewolf the Apocalypse, which we've concluded is a problem, something that can be worked around in the setting as is, without a lot of modification, but you still do need to work around a couple of the essentially cooked in elements that are problematic. But it is absolutely possible. And once again, we ended up saying if the game doesn't really allow it for you, then change the game. Essentially, it's important to feel yourself, to be able to be yourself and feel safe around the table. So if there is something the game is doing that makes you feel not cool, change it. And that's your prerogative, and you absolutely should feel free to do that. That said, we were hoping that in W5 they were going to be a bit more inclusive from the get-go. We'll see where that lands next year when the game launches. And we also discussed a theory about a character called Erica, which is a member of the press, which gives strong hints. Not in this particular playthrough, but she did in one of my previous playthroughs, that she is at least some kind of shapeshifter, because she appeared to have access to a gift known as Senseworm. The current theory from the chat, based on the imagery around the character, is that she might be a werecat known as a Bastet. Who knows? So here we are. That chapter is done, and we are now starting chapter 3. And Gene Test is saying, I'm here. Hello, Gene Test. I got my water this week, so I won't need you to come down here and bring me some. So yeah, chapter 3 is coming up. I will actually get right in on it. I won't talk much more than that, because it's a big one. And so is chapter 4, and honestly, if I could do them together, I would be happy. I think it's best to play at least the beginning of chapter 4 right after finishing chapter 3, so that's what I'm going to aim for tonight. So, one last gulp, and I'm jumping in. I need to talk. I thought about going back to sleep, but I couldn't. Since I arrived in this village, I felt like I was falling down a rabbit hole, or rather a wolf's den. My dreams were getting more and more vivid, and I was scared. I needed to talk it over with someone I trusted. Okay. So here we see all of the characters with which we have a positive relationship. So we get to choose. Hello, Stano. Hi. Thanks for joining us. We're sorry, starting over. We are just starting chapter 3. So you haven't really missed much of anything about the game yet. I just made 2 quick announcements about 2 new games in the World of Darkness. I'll bring you up to speed off screen eventually if you missed it. I won't repeat it because I'm trying to go through chapter 3 and maybe 4 tonight if I can. Now, as usual, chat gets to choose. So here we have 4 characters that we can try to talk to, or we can decide we don't trust anymore. So we can either go and talk to the pack leader Cornell, which once again we're not supposed to know he's a werewolf at this point. We can go talk to Danielle, which is a member of the other pack of werewolves, which we got to spend a lot of time with in chapter 1. Anya is our friend in it from the start, as the line says here. And Bartek is the son of the person behind the logging, as I revealed last time. Mm-hmm. So those are interesting choices. I never really had that many options so far, actually. So I'm very curious to see what's going to happen. Sorry about that, chat. I hope you didn't hear that. The bing, I was lowering the volume because it's very loud in my ear. So right now we have Anya. 1 vote for Anya from Stanel. Okay. Finner with that. Fine with that. Oh, okay. Probably saying it's fine that I'm not going to repeat the announcements. We'll talk on Friday if you want, if you missed the announcements. So do we have any other votes, or are we going for Anya? Okay, Nomad is going for Danielle. Interesting. So we're going to need at least a 3rd vote to split that up. Otherwise, I'm going to go again. When it's a tie, what I do is I go with whichever one was voted for first. Gene Test says, I'm not quite present at the moment. She's working on something else, which is perfectly fine. So it doesn't look like we're going to have a 3rd vote. So I think we're going with Anya. I come here with Anya. And despite all the strange things I'd done, she still stuck with me. I messaged her and she messaged me back. I'm on a walk, come join me. The sun had just set and the moon wasn't up yet. I started walking. The forest loomed on the horizon. The activist's camp was somewhere there. We met near the shop in Białowieża. It was a characteristic enough point and easy to get to from anywhere in town. What is it? Anya asked. She looked worried. That's very interesting because the first gameplay I did, I tried to go and talk to Anya, if memory serves, and my Maya at the time said, you know what, she's not really the kind of person I need to talk to right now. She doesn't have the answers I'm looking for. And I think I was sort of forced to try and go see Lisa. So I'm super surprised to see that we actually can go talk to Anya. That's cool. What is it? Anya asked. She looked worried. Something strange was happening to me. Or something strange was happening here. What's the chat say? Is something strange happening to me or here? If you're asking me, both are true, but we have to pick one. So we have 1 vote for something strange to me, 2 votes for me. Considering how many of us there is on the chat right now, we're not going to have any more, so we're going with this. Well, we might have more, but we're not going to have 3 votes for here to balance, so this is the one. I know it sounds crazy, but I think something strange is happening to me. I'm scared, Anya. There is something strange happening, she nutted. But I have no idea what it is. I know even less than you, she frowned. Maybe we should go to your new friends, the activists? She smiled a little. They are weird. They must know something. It was an option. implying that maybe there's another one. Or she had the best ideas. Interesting. I really don't know what what else there could be as an option. Very curious about that, but they would be the ones with answers for sure. So let's see what the chat thinks. But interesting, we have a tie between best ideas and option for now. Has any more people appeared on the chat? No. Okay then. So with Jean busy with something else, she won't be able to break that tie, so I'm going with Nomad's option, which came first, which is best. And apparently I made Nomad laugh. I don't know why, but I did. Here we go. I smiled. That's why I came to you. You have the best ideas. She smiled and started walking. Why did Bartek just show up there? Oh, because she's calling him. Okay, interesting. Wow. She smiled and started walking. Let's go. I'm sure they're not sleeping. Do you mind if I text Bartek? I promised I'd meet him tonight. I didn't mind, and he soon joined us. Oh, right. Okay, so Nomad explains that he was laughing because Staniel and me are opposite tonight. True. Actually, we've had ties after ties. Very true. Yes, very, very true. I've never, ever, ever had this setup. Knowing what happens in Chapter 3, I'm very excited about what's coming up next. I will tell you more about what happened in my playthroughs once we're done with this, because I don't want to spoil this. This is a big one, but oh my god, I'm so looking forward to this. We went to the activists' camp. All together now. The camp had a different vibe than the logging site protests. There were more people there. We looked around, trying to take it all in. The people in the camp seemed quite cheerful. The smells were intriguing. I watched them for a moment, or someone was singing. So here we have no idea who that is. That, I believe, is Olga. Anya's in the back. It's this... Who's this one? Does anyone remember who that is? Is that Carnell? It looks like Carnell, but I just remember the image of him from far away. I'm not sure. And there's a bunch of people here that are hard to identify as well. I think we're not supposed to know who these are because they're saying that there were more people there. So it's the first time I have it this, actually, by the way. Usually I meet people kind of elsewhere on the way. I think it's the first time I have these bunch of strangers in here with us. So maybe there's more people in this sept, actually. That's interesting. The chat seems to be agreeing with me that this is Cornell. It makes sense. So essentially, it's me, Anya, Bartek is somewhere not on the screen but with us, and we are seeing the two alphas here. So I think that makes complete sense to have Olga and Cornell. In terms of votes, we have Stanil, which is voting for the smells were intriguing, and Nomad, who says, I watched them. Once again, until I have any hints that we have anyone else active on the chat, I'm going to assume that those are the only two, which means I'm going with smell because that was Stanil who voted first. There were tents, and I could smell some bacon in the air. People were milling about, setting up camp, singing, preparing posters. It was a joint effort. I was hungry. Ooh. Apparently, being hungry gives us some rage. Stanil, we need to talk. Yeah. My stomach growled. I was hungry. Bartek is loyal. I have no idea what your plan is, said Bartek, but you have my full support. Interesting. So Bartek is backing us. It's interesting, though, because in this playthrough, Bartek and Anya are a thing. Since day one, apparently. That was quick pairing, but pairing nonetheless. So I wonder if he's here because he's trying to impress Anya, or he's genuinely having a change of heart. If I'm being honest, Bartek was never a really important character in any of my playthroughs, and I know for a fact that it can be very different. So I really don't know that much about it. I'm very interested to see where we go. So we have right now a vote for C. Cornell. I'm gonna, just for the heck of it, I'm gonna give Nomad time to vote just to see if we're still gonna have, if they still need to talk or not. Okay, well the vote doesn't seem to be coming in. I guess they're talking. I don't know. Oh no, he actually just voted. Okay, he votes for Cornell too. So that's gonna be that. Hello, I said as I approached. Cornell smiled at me. Hello, he said. What brings you here? I need answers, or I was confused. Those are two fairly equivalent quotes, I guess. But I guess one is more direct, like, I need answers. Can you give me some? Or the other is more of a, this is my state. Do what you will with it. Stanel votes foes first with answers. I shrugged and dug my hands deeper into the pockets of my jeans. I have so many questions. About myself, the forest, and the logging. Colonel looked at me with those uncanny gray eyes. I could feel his attention lock on me. It's okay, he said. Join us, and you'll understand. We're here to stop what's happening, to show that we don't agree, and that we hope to make a difference. Will it work? I asked. I don't know. All I know is that it worked before. It worked for Gandhi. It worked with segregation and apartheid in the end. It worked with communism. So let's see if it works with capitalism as well. Violence is not an option here. He smiled. And I think you know quite well that anger doesn't really get shit done. Oh, that's interesting. So first of all, I don't know how more obvious Cornell could be in terms of spelling out what tribe he is. But I'm not going to say it just yet. Just if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm going to let you think. But there are a lot of hints right there. The other thing that I really like about what he just said is that, I wonder if we can get that again, but rage as a mechanic is described by the game as a way to get shit done, essentially. Earlier in the game, in the tutorial, I think it pretty much spells it out that that's a thing. In the context of Werewolf the Apocalypse, that's kind of true, but it's also extremely wrong. A lot of tribes think it's really useful to just bash things out, but as I've explained before, in Werewolf the Apocalypse, just killing shit doesn't really do much. I mean, you have to, it's usually part of the solution, but if you stop there, you didn't solve anything. You usually have to find the root of the problem, and figuring that out is usually not something you can deal with claws and fangs. Just like with the logging, they could destroy the machines, for example, if we want to see that as the monster, but it's still being funded by the government. So what are you going to do when the next machines come in? You're going to keep destroying them? Okay, sure, but then you're basically just robbing people of their lives, essentially. These people are paid to do this, and if the machines aren't there and they can't do their job, then they're gonna starve, or eat TV dinner for a month or so or something. These are just people doing their jobs. You're creating as much problems as you're solving, and that is one of the core aspects of Werewolf the Apocalypse that I feel is often missed by a lot of people who tend to see Werewolf as just that. It's just a game where you claw things and that's it. And it's just not true. Werewolf is a very, very deep game, and understanding that rage can be a tool for sure, but isn't anywhere near your best tool or the solution to even half of your problems is one of the big lessons from Werewolf. So here, I like the fact that the game itself made a statement. The same statement that Werewolf the Apocalypse does. Like the catchphrase, sorry about that. The catchphrase for Werewolf the Apocalypse is, "When will you rage?" Because that's what the image of the game is all about. The game's about rage, essentially. Except when you start digging into it and you figure out, oh wait, actually, no, it's not. And some tribes like the Children of Gaia, which is this tribe, they figured that one out. And they're all about trying to solve problems with other solutions. They will claw shit up if they need to, like any other werewolves. Absolutely, it can be a solution. But they're going to try to find other ones and find ways that will solve problems without creating more at the same time. So I really like here that the developers show that they understand this. The game goes in the same direction as the books, like rage, rage, rage. But here we're going to the root of an issue. We're showing that it's more complicated, and Cornell is just stating here very quickly, very succinctly, actually, it's wrong. It's not about rage. It's cool. This is Werewolf just there. The whole of Werewolf, all of it is right here. So we have Stanil voting on I knew that, and then changed to no, don't agree. And now she's in a dilemma. She don't know what to vote for anymore. So I'm going to give her and Nomad a bit more time to work it out. So we have Nomad now voting for I knew that. And I guess Stanil kind of canceled her own vote, so I'm going to go for that. I knew that. I smiled back. Somehow being around him made me feel more relaxed. I know you can count on me, I answered. I had a family debt to pay and I couldn't be just an observer anymore. So we may have a little citizen protest going on tonight, Cornell said, but I'll need your support if we want to convince the others. They all wanted to do something that night, but after a whole day's discussion, they were still divided on what to do. 3 for one option, 3 for the other. I had the deciding vote. So either we're going for a peaceful protest, once again siding with Cornell, or we're going for violence, backing up Olga's plan. At this point, it would be a bit weird to back up Olga, because we've literally never spoken to her, and we've bonded a lot with Cornell. Again, I'm going to go with the chat once, but it would be a bit of a 180 type situation here. So we've got 1 vote for Cornell, backing up the peaceful protest. And there's a few more people in the chat now, so I'm just going to give others the time to see if they want to push in the other direction. Okay, 2nd vote for Cornell. Pretty much settles that. A little help from my friends. I voted for the peaceful protest, and soon we were on our way to the National Park headquarters and education center. We had some banners to install. Bartek hesitated for a long time, but he joined us in the end. I'm only coming because my dad is out tonight, and he won't see me coming in late, he mumbled. Nomad specifies, not in my nature, but ragabash. Yeah, Nomad tends to be playing Get of Fenris's, so he would probably usually have gone with the violent option, but we are indeed very, very much playing a ragabash here. I mean, look at this. Cunning is just at the very end right here, and nothing else comes even close. So, yeah, very much in agreement with you there. Anya also tagged, or I asked Anya to go home. Interesting. The reasons are my own why I find this interesting at this point. I don't want to spoil it, but this is interesting. So what does the chat think? Are we taking Anya, or are we asking her to go home? It's also interesting that the character doesn't care that Bartek is coming along. So we got 2 for tagged along. This is so exciting, Anya whispered. I've never done anything so illegal. Just to point out, in my first playthrough, I asked her to go back home. Probably a bit of metagaming there because I was alone with people that I was pretty sure were all werewolves, so I thought, let's not bring her along, you know, the veil and everything. But she decided to come anyway. Literally, it was written, Anya is loyal, and her response was, I'm not going to leave a friend alone. And she just decided to come along, even if I told her, you know, maybe you should stay behind. So that was pretty cool. That despite me making an active choice, it didn't actually go that way, because sometimes you may want something and you're not going to get what you want. And, I mean, I wouldn't do that with many choices, only a few. Otherwise, it just feels like, okay, well, why am I even choosing anymore? But I felt in that particular case that it made a lot of sense, and it strengthened my bond, me as a player, with the character of Anya. I was touched at that point that she decided, you know, no, I'm gonna stay. I'm not gonna leave you alone. We're pals. We're buddies. So I really liked that. Soon we were there. As we were on our way, I realized that we followed the path only because of my vote. I made a difference. The National Park headquarters were located in something called Palace Park. The name was historical. The name, like everything in Poland, was historical. Centuries ago, some king had his hunting lodge there. But now it was a mishmash of old and new buildings scattered around the park. Some were rough and bulky, made of stone and brick, while others were an extravaganza of wooden porches, lace-like shutters, and meticulously sculpted pillars. There was no one around, but the area was well lit. It was exhilarating. I looked around, or I needed to be careful. I'm now realizing, I think in both of my playthroughs, I sided with Olga there. This is completely new to me. It does not ring any bells whatsoever. And yet it explains so much. We have a vote for looked around. And another one for careful. So we have a tie again. I'm going to go with the first one that came, which was looked around. I looked around once more. The moon was waxing gibbous, and I didn't see any stars in the sky. If you didn't count us, the park really seemed empty, dead even. Suddenly I remembered a church located just next to the Palace Park gate. I could feel its dark silhouette looming in the darkness, waiting. We were ready, or suddenly I started having second thoughts. Interesting. I mean, to be frank, I think this is just for flavor. And I love it. I mean, we're here. Obviously, we're going to do the plan. I doubt the game at this point would just allow us to move around. But the fact that they're giving me the choice is allowing me to choose how the character feels. So it's essentially allowing me to roleplay through this. We've got 2 votes for ready. They'd spent a whole day painting the sign on a length of material sewn together from what looked like old sheets that were various shades of grayish white. The dark green letters declared, "Wood is the enemy of the forest." "Where do we hang it?" asked Danielle, who'd come equipped with climbing gear. I shared my recommendations. We could cover the church, or never mind, as long as we acted fast. I think the implication here is that wood, as in chopping trees to get wood, is the enemy of the forest, is what they're going for. Because obviously a tree is made out of wood, otherwise I'm not sure what they will be going with this. So we've got 1 vote for don't know, don't care, just do it fast. Do we have more people in chat? Ooh, we've got still more people in chat, but only 2 that appear to be active, which is fine. It's not a judgment on anyone. Just glad you're there and enjoying the show. You don't please don't feel obliged to be active just because I'm saying that. I'm just trying to gauge how many votes I'm going to get. So I'm going for fast. If there's two people talking, most likely we're going to have a tie, and I'm going to have to go with this vote anyway. So Cornell joined him, and they started deliberating on the best way to approach the problem. Sure, take your time. We have the whole night. It's not like anyone might pass any minute, I hurried them. It doesn't matter, Olga said, because hanging the banner is a waste of time. I looked at her, curious what kind of advice she could offer. I let her talk, or I asked her for advice. Again, sounds like flavor. I mean, either way she's going to be talking, right? Asked her. Okay, I'm going to spell out a bit of a negative here. Once again, just because I'm going to point out something negative doesn't mean I don't love the game, because I freaking love the game. But every time that this changes, tells me one person is neutral or X or Y or Z, I'm always in the back of my mind wondering, oh, so it changed from what to what? Especially right now as I'm streaming this and I'm playing this about once a week, I don't really remember who was what. I wish it kind of showed, like maybe show what it was, put a strike through it and tell me the new option, or maybe just an arrow next to it so I can see, oh, it upgraded or oh, it downgraded. Just tell me what it was before so I can figure out if I effed up or not. Because right now, it doesn't tell me much. So what could we do better the next time? I asked her for advice. We could vote for a plan that has a chance to actually help the forest, Olga rolled her eyes. It's a great banner, and I'm sure it will look good on the pictures published by a number of independent political blogs. She looked at Cornell. But it's stuck so deep into the overeducated ecological dispute that people won't get it, and the loggers won't care. Cornell sighed and shook his head. Don't get involved with him, Pat said. Don't get involved with him, said Pat, leaning towards me. Pat is telling me not to get involved with him. Him, I assume, is Cornell, right? Okay. Why is Pat telling me not to get involved with Cornell? That's interesting. This is new. As I said, Pat barely ever did anything in any of my playthroughs, so everything she does is fascinating to me. Still, now we need to vote. What was that about? Or were they together? Oh, I should have read that before talking. Okay, so we can ask her about what the heck is going on, what's her thing, or we can assume that by involved she meant, involved. And she's trying to tell me to get away from her man. Probably not that, because again, in Werewolf, Garus shall not mate. Garus shall not mate with Garu. It's a law in the Litany. We've already got two characters who threw that out the window, which is Olga and Lisa. They're together. They're a thing. And it would be a bit weird if Pat and Bartek also did that. So we've got a vote for what was that about, and another one for together. The what was that about came first, so I'm going to go with that. What are you talking about? I asked, a bit distracted. She had a weird expression on her face. I didn't get it. What was her relationship with Cornell, anyway? Never mind, she said. Really, it's just... You won't be here long. All the more reason to get involved, or I tried to see her point. You won't be here long. Interesting. I know things that I'm not going to mention that could explain this, but I don't know if that's what she actually means. Very intrigued. So what does the chat think? Are we going to ignore that and think that we should get involved, or are we going to try to see? Okay, first vote is try to see. Since we're trying to go through chapter 3 and 4. Actually, for now, what I'm going to do, I think I'm just going to go, unless there's more people active, I'm just going to go with the first one that votes in. Well, maybe you're right, I sighed. Maybe I invest too much in this protest. I wish I could stay longer. What I meant was that you shouldn't follow Cornell blindly, she said. And for a moment, I felt we were on the brink of something dangerous. But the moment passed. Pat is now sympathetic. But Pat couldn't stay serious for too long. Suddenly she pointed up. Look, Daniel turned into a squirrel. I lifted my gaze. For a moment, this silhouette against the white wall really looked like a giant squirrel, with a bushy tail climbing up quickly. And then I realized it was the shadow of the rope. Pat, I snorted, and we started to laugh. Finally, we pulled the banner up. My father will have a stroke when he sees this, Bartek let out a repressed laugh. It's an important message, Anya looked up with fire in her eyes. The world must know. I looked at the banner. I was proud of our work. When we finished, Cornell gathered us together. I was proud of what we'd accomplished. And I contributed to that. Don't even know when we lost our willpower point, but hey, it's back. Whatever my family had done, I was starting to pay back the debt. Cornell reached for his bicycle. Let's go for a trip, he said, to remind ourselves what we were trying to protect. Well, whoever that is, she looks mean. Is that me? Is that Maya? It's a different angle than we're used to. Gunshots in the woods! The woods were full of stars. We cycled in silence, enjoying the company of the forest as it enjoyed ours. After some time, the place of power opened up before us. The boulders looked relaxed. A soft breeze rustled in the trees, welcoming us. Bartek was tense. I knew this place. Or Anya chuckled. I have no idea what's coming up. As I said, I usually go with Olga, so right now I'm just like, what? And there's so many more people than usual following us at this point. I mean, I have an idea of what's going to happen, but no idea how. So first vote was chuckled. So here we go. This is exciting, Anya chuckled. And I relaxed. The energy was still there. I knew it, but it couldn't reach me. Not if I didn't allow it to. I was ready to act. So where were they? Why were we there? Or I wondered if anyone else felt it as well. The energy was... Oh, the energy in the forest. Right. They may be referring to the bond. Usually in Werewolf, when you're on a cairn, you can feel that you're on a cairn. But usually the bond is huge, like not just a couple of meters around the place of power, but kilometers. It's big. It encompasses the entire influence, spiritual influence of a cairn. So I mean, you have to picture that it's big enough for an entire community of 8 to 50 werewolves living on it. It's big. They need to have space to hunt if there are lupuses there. It's not a small area. In this version of the game, though, the only times when Maya is feeling what I think is the bond is when she's directly in the forest and close to the place of power. And again, we're next to it again. It would be stronger there for sure, but a werewolf should feel it from quite a ways away, and we're not. So here my point is this something that this game is doing? Is that their interpretation? Different interpretation from mine, which is fine. Or is this something that is changed for W5? I don't know. I've had no conversation about this with the developers, and I have not seen them mention anything of that nature in a public space either. So I really can't say. But it's just hitting me right now. I never realized before this very second that this could be a change or a different interpretation. Again, if the developers see it in a way that is different from mine, it's fine. It's their game. They're doing what they want. But it is not in line with my understanding of how Karens work. But then again, it's not the first thing that's different with how Karens work that we have noticed or that others have noticed online as well. So realistically, that could be a change. Who knows? So what did the chat say? Stanil is voting for Y. So why were we here? We've got Genome. Hey, Genome. Hi. Thanks for coming, bro. Voted for I Wondered, and Nomad is also voting for I Wondered. Okay, so we've got enough people active now that I'm going to continue tallying votes again. Not just going for the first one that I see. So I wondered if anyone else felt it as well. And I'm glad we chose that, actually, because we might be getting some answers now. Do you guys feel that? I looked at my companions, but before anyone could answer, a loud sound tore through the silence. It was a gunshot. And we just heard it. Anya gasped, looking around, wide-eyed and terrified. The others tensed up, but they didn't look concerned, just confused. We have to get out of here immediately. Bartek's whisper was frantic and scared. There's a hunting party out there. Colonel turned towards us like he'd finally put something together. There was a rustle, and I saw a bunch of men in camo, each of them with a rifle, coming towards us between the trees. I took a step back, or I observed them. Okay. Hunters in camo coming towards us. Could be random, could also be, someone sent directly to kill us. It's a thing in Werewolf. The werewolves have enemies, of course. And if somehow Pentex is involved, I haven't seen them mentioned in any of my playthroughs, but if Pentex is involved, that's an evil corporation. Think Wolf from Heart from Angel, and you're really not far off the mark. They have teams of what's known as a Fomurai. In a nutshell, not to go into too much detail, but a Fomurai is a normal human that is possessed by a bane, an evil spirit, essentially, and that makes them into something unnatural and rather powerful compared to a normal human, but pretty weak compared to a werewolf. Groups of Fomurai are known as first teams. That's how Pentex calls them. They tend to band them together, give them military gear, and then go hunt hunt werewolves. Go die out there, and maybe if you're lucky, you're gonna bring one or two of them down before you die. And I'm thinking this could be it. I don't know. I mean, it can't be a coincidence that these hunters are just going in our direct direction, is what I'm saying. So we have 1 vote for observe and 2 for step back. So we are stepping back. This seemed dangerous. I took a step back, pulling Anya with me. Their leader weighed us up for a moment and finally focused on Cornell. This area is closed for the night, the huntsman said in Polish. There was contempt in his voice. There's a hunt going out, and y'all are trespassing. We have police officers here, so I would go home if I were you, unless you want to get arrested. Because I'm cunning, we're having this text here that says, the man's hands were sweaty, his stance off balance. I could trip him in a split second if I wanted to. Who goes hunting in a national park? It's got to be protected, but let's say it's not. Who goes hunting and brings cops? Just in case a deer breaks the law and you need them arrested? I mean, you're there to hunt. You're gonna go with your pals hunting. Why are there cops there? That makes absolutely zero sense. I'm not complaining against the game. What I'm saying, there's got to be a reason for this. Once again, these devs know what they're doing, so maybe not a Pentex first team, but definitely someone is pulling some kind of influence type move here where they're trying really hard to stop us. This is targeted, is what I'm saying. So we have, I tried to de-escalate. I turned to the forest for advice. Huh, very interesting. Or I backed off. We've got one de-escalate. Nomad says cops can hurt. Cops can hunt too, using it to convince. Oh, you mean, oh, maybe it's not that they're hunting and they brought cops. Is they're hunting and some of the hunters happen to be cops. I hear what you're saying. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense too. I still get the feeling that it probably, even if you're right, I'm thinking that this is still targeted. Probably directly at Cornell, because, I mean, they're going straight for him. But yeah, no, you're probably right. I think I definitely misunderstood. So we have one for de-escalate, one for asking the forest for advice. So, Genome, if you're still here, could you give us... Okay. Might only be a threat, though. It could be, for sure. Yep. Absolutely. I think his meaning is that saying we have cops among us might be just a way to intimidate. If that's true, then maybe it's not as much targeted as it is just this guy's a douche, some kind of alpha douche guy, and he's trying to buff up his chest, essentially, by using that. And now that I think about it, I mean, we heard gunshots, like, out of nowhere in the forest. None of us were there. They definitely just shot something. So they could just be hunters, now that I think about it. That might make sense. So, Genome says, as the spiritual player I have become over the years, I turn to the forest for advice, and Nomad agrees with me. Yep, he's a douche. Okay, okay, so yeah. Please ignore my entire explanation of Pentex and first teams. I think we have only hunters here. Still, what do we have in terms of vote? Let me go back here. We've got one de-escalate. We have one ask the forest for advice. And another ask the forest for advice. Okay, so we've got two for this. Ooh, we got spiritual a bit. It's never going to balance out the cunning one, but it's interesting. So this man, I realized, was no one. He wasn't important here. What was important was the forest and what it needed. And it cared about me, and I didn't want me to get hurt. Sorry, and didn't want me to get hurt. There would be other knights and other people to fight. But right then I felt that it wanted me to leave. The heck? So we're leaving, I guess, but apparently we've got a bunch of wolves with us now. What the heck is happening? Okay, let's see. I ran, the air in my lungs boiling, my skin slick with sweat, and the darkness thick around me. Anya and Bartek were running just behind me, or so I hoped. Something was chasing us. We left the shouts and gunshots long behind us, but we couldn't stop. Something was chasing us. Two silhouettes, one lean, the other bulky. I saw them in the corner of my eye as they leaped forward. At first, I thought they were people, but as they leaped, they got longer. Longer, smaller, I couldn't see clearly. It was dark. Sweat was blinding me, and they were hiding behind the trees. I heard howling and growling, and then I saw there were wolves chasing us. I tried to hide, I tried to run faster, or I decided to face them. Okay. Either the hunters were werewolves as well, and they're gunning for us, or the two packs we were with decided to turn into Lupus for no reason and run after us, which kind of breaks the veil rather gratuitously. I'm a bit confused about what's happening, but we're gonna play through it and figure it out. We got 2 votes for hide, so let's do this. I pulled Bartek and Anya into the bushes. Maybe the forest would protect us. The wolves stopped. For a moment, they sniffed the air. I pricked my ears. Their snarling changed tone, and then they started to whisper, and I understood them. Mine. She turned from your path. She has a heart. The voice was low and calm. She is the one. A speaker for the forest. Mine. I went to confront them, or I must have lost my mind. Okay, so I think Olga is speaking. Why though? I mean, we ran from hunters, and boom, everyone decided to ignore the fact that we have humans with us. That's a bit out of left field, but okay. So nobody's voting so that we're going to be confronting them, which personally I'm leaning towards that as well right now, because give me some answers. Like, why are you suddenly ignoring the hunters, and why are you suddenly doing pretty much the worst move you could do? I mean, you're either going to break the veil or have to kill both Bartek and Anya just cause. I mean, there were so many other ways to play this, and all of them were better, but we'll see. Naxiferam wants to confront as well, so we're going to do this. Once again, not talking against the game. The developers still have a complete confidence that's not going to change, but my impression of the scene is that there's got to be something we don't know, because that's a bad move for them to do. And there are many reasons in this world to do bad things or bad moves, so I just want to figure out what it is. It's a mystery to me. I'd had enough. I stepped out of the bushes and onto the path. I looked at the wolves. They looked at me. To be fair, they won. I felt strangely connected to them, and I just started talking. Interesting. Very interesting. I'll leave it for the chat, of course, but I mean, that one makes me laugh. And this one I just find is really dramatically interesting. Like, just after everything, just like, she steps out and gonna go, hey, you wolves, stop freaking fucking with us, essentially. That's interesting. So Stanil is saying talk, so that's 1 vote for talk. Let's see what else we can come up with. I mean, there are 1 or 2 explanations I can think of quickly. I mean, Olga is not a reasonable person. I can easily see, especially what she just said, like, mine. I think she considers Maya to be hers, and she's seeing Maya going towards Cornell, and she's essentially in panic mode, and just decided to hell with it. I'm gonna show her now that we're werewolves, gonna show her that she is one as well, and I don't care about anything else. Which, spoiler alerts, Olga is an arrow. It makes sense. When you think about it this way, it's a bad move, yes, but it's a bad move I can see Olga make. And once you see Olga turn Lupus and run after Maya, it's not a stretch to see that the other ones are gonna go, well, shit, and turn Lupus as well to try and stop her, because no other shape is as fast as Lupus. So I guess I can see it happening. I'm gonna wait for the explanation, but I can see it happening. So we have 2 votes, 3 votes for talk, and 1 for, to be fair, they won. You're outnumbered, followed by an entire pack of wolves. True, but we're gonna talk to them. The Pushta is loyal. Interesting. I heard a rustle in the leaves, and then there was a voice in my head. My little Ragabash. I knew that it was the Pushta, and that she was pleased with me. I also knew that Ragabash meant shadow. You're looking for me, I asked, hoping that my nonchalance would confuse them. The wolves dispersed, and then something happened. Something that I couldn't see clearly, and the two wolves stepped out of the bushes. I knew both of them. Olga? Cornell? Okay, so it makes even more sense if you consider that there are only two wolves. Here I assume there were 5 because of the image. Maybe it's more of a montage of several different images of the wolves at different times running after Maya. Maybe that's what they were going for here. It could be. So maybe, for example, this is Cornell and this is Olga, where they each have their side of the screen. That could be what's happening here. I don't know. But I thought essentially that both packs were running after us, or close to. There's more than 5, but at least close to. If you think there's only 2 of them, then everything really clicks into place. Olga ran, shifted. Cornell was, crap, I can't let her do this, went after her. And I'm assuming the others are left there to deal with the hunters. I think that makes sense. Nuxiferum says, could be that 5 wolves dispersed and only 2 humans appeared after. Right, they did just say that they dispersed, didn't they? Yeah, the wolves dispersed. And then something happened. Something I couldn't see. Right. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, no, Nuxiferum is onto something. Okay, so 5 wolves. They dispersed. And then out of the bushes came 2 people. So we didn't exactly see them shapeshift. Okay, yeah, no, I think Nuxiferum has gotten it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so everyone just kind of dumped the hunters then. Okay. So we probably have a bunch of very confused hunters. From their perspective, I assume they think their intimidation worked. Everyone ran. That works. So who are we going to be interjecting, I guess, is what we're doing here. Chat, I don't see what the difference might be between these 2 options, but we have to pick. So we got 2 for Cornell. We're going to go with Cornell. Wait, she has the right to know, Cornell grabbed Olga's arm. One of us is going to bite you, she said, matter-of-factly. And then you will die, Cornell added. One way or another, it runs in your family. What? One of us is going to bite you, and then you will die. What the heck are they going on about? For those who don't know, biting has nothing to do with Werewolf the Apocalypse. Nothing at all. That's not how you turn someone to a werewolf. You're born into this. And I know for a fact that developers know this because this has never happened in any of my other playthroughs, and the first changes occurred normally in all of my other playthroughs. So I have no idea what they're going for here. As a side note, there is a thing about biting in Werewolf the Apocalypse, but only in the most recent editions of the live version of the game. There's apparently a new thing, a new plotline, where werewolves decided, well, there's not enough warriors, so we're gonna make this new thing we can do where we can bite people. They're probably gonna die, but they also might change. I don't know what I think about that just yet. I really haven't really given it much thought. I think I don't really like it in the sense that it's always been a thing in Werewolf that's just not how it happens. So bringing it back just feels weird a bit to me, but why not? It's a theme of werewolves in general, so why not play with it? I'm a bit torn on the subject. Still, it's That's only for the Mind's Eye Theater version of it. They've updated the timeline essentially. I don't think it's seen as canonical in any way, in the sense that Werewolf Fifth Edition will ignore everything that By Night Studio, I believe they're called, came up with in the last decade in terms of werewolf lore. I'm pretty sure Werewolf 5th Edition is going to do their own thing. So, we'll see. There was a series of wet cracks, like skin breaking, torn from within by muscles that suddenly grew, by bones rapidly getting longer, by fur and teeth and claw. When I dared to look, I saw two 8 feet tall monsters standing in front of me on the narrow path in the forest. I knew it! Yeah, sure, of course you knew that. Fuck. Or I gulped. All of these are pretty appropriate. Well, except I knew it, because, I mean, who would know that? So here we have one vote for... Fuck. I would have chosen P a little bit, but since that's not a choice, I gulped. Okay, so we've got one F word, one gulped. Let's see what else we've got. 2 for gulped, okay. It's an appropriate choice, so we're going to go with that. Then there was a roar. And then there was only pain. They're actually biting. Oh shit! We just lost 2 elf levels here. Which, I mean, come on, we just got bitten by Krynos. Okay, what's that? Oh. Are they trying to trigger? Right, okay. Okay. So a first change happens when you're completely stressed out or pissed off beyond measure, essentially. So here, I think, I mean, biting itself isn't the trigger, but if a monster is going to bite you, you're going to panic, right? So I think she's trying to trigger the first change just out of fear, essentially. Yeah, Nomad agrees. He says, forced first change. Interesting. The pain was unbearable. Nothing in my life had prepared me for this. I knew I was dying, or I started laughing. So we have one vote for started laughing, which I find to be so very appropriate, considering we're playing Ragabash here. But we'll see what happens with the other votes. But yeah, I'm also going for that. And boom, 2 more votes for laughing, so that's definitely what we're doing here. Blinded by the blood in my eyes and the searing pain in my shoulder and chest, I could only laugh. This wasn't what I'd expected from this trip. You spend so much time planning, only to see your whole life crash and burn. All I could do was laugh. But I knew how serious it was. And there we lost our last elf level. So I laughed, grinning with bloodied teeth until my strength left me and I couldn't hold myself upright anymore. The forest caught my fall with a bed of moss and twigs. I stopped thrashing and a cold numbness engulfed me. We can either give up or spend a willpower to not give up. We have a vote for try to get up. Fair. We've got plenty of willpower. We can do that. 2 votes for trying to get up. So I'm going to take that path. I punched the earth, trying to get some feeling in my hands. I gritted my teeth and tried to get up. I collapsed again. I felt so cold. Suddenly there was light. I looked up. The full moon. It looked different. Didn't it just say that it was a gibbous moon? I mean, I won't go all the way back up for this, but I think it was said that it was a gibbous moon. Anyway, it looked different. Luna in her full glory. Your health dropped to 0. When you lose all your health or willpower, you become impaired. This will make physical tasks, if you have 0 health, or social and mental tasks, if you have 0 willpower, harder, and sometimes impossible. The moon was a goddess, and she noticed me. Get up, she said. I got up. Is this indeed a first change, people? We are now in Cardinals form. I get up. I feel good. I know that I shouldn't, but I don't remember why. I don't care. I stretch. I breathe. Or my mind is clear. I like how when you shapeshift to Krynos, you get more stats. I don't remember if it's shape specific or if it's once you get your first change you get more stats. It's interesting because it could be a hint towards W5. Because in V5 there's no soak anymore, essentially. You get more health, essentially, instead. And that's something that was also in Werewolf the Forsaken, which is the version of Werewolf in the Chronicles of Darkness. So that's something I've been thinking a lot about in the past couple of months when I realized that soaking was gone. Personally, I really didn't really like that mechanic in Forsaken. I thought it was clunky, to be perfectly blunt. I know a lot of people love Forsaken. I'm not saying Forsaken is not a good game. Forsaken is cool for its own reasons. But I think the mechanic of shapeshifting, changing how many health you had, made shapeshifting way more complicated than it should be. Because then when you revert back to a form with less health, you need to convert all of your extra health into damage. So, in other words, you shift to Krynos to fight, and then you shift back to Hamid, and then you die. You were fine when you were in Krynos, but no, you got to Hamid again, so all of your extra health just kills you. It's weird. Not a fan. I know there's a second edition of Werewolf the Forsaken, so maybe they made it better, but to be honest, in Forsaken, I felt like shapeshifting was just not a good option. You were better to just fight in Glabro than to shift in Krynos. Personally, it was a bit of a turnoff. But here, the fact that we get more stats, we'll have to pay attention. Because again, I don't remember if it's from the moment you have your first change or if it's a shape distinction. And I want to check that, because if it's a shape distinction, it might be a hint of the direction that W5 is taking. I hope not, but I'm thinking it is. So here we have mind is clear, or I stretch. Stanel confirms also she thinks it's the first change. Do you mean, just by that, do you mean it's the first change that changes my stats? Or do you mean the whole situation you feel that is the first change that we were discussing? Just to see if you think it's the shape or if it's the shape shifting that gives us the extra stats. Just to be sure I understand you correctly, essentially. So we've got 2 votes for mind is clear. That's what we're going to go for. We're getting back our willpower. My mind is clearer than it's ever been before. I see the world in sharp contrast of black and white, movement and stillness. I smell prey. I hear language in the hooting of howls, the whistling of the wind, and the snarling of wolves. I am what I was born to be. I won't make chat choose because I think we have to go through all of them anyway, so I'm just going to pick them. So we got Elf back. My muscles are sore and cramped, so I stretch like I've never stretched before. My arms are longer, my legs are stronger, my heart is pumping, and I feel like I've spent my whole life packed into a box, and I've finally been set free. I breathe. I take a breath and feel my ribs and muscles move. The forest smells of blood and fear and excitement. I'm happy. I laugh happily, and others' laughter joins me. We laugh and sing to the moon. Something stings me. I look around. There's a small, malformed creature pointing a stick at me. The stick blazes with fire, and there's another stick. The creature disgusts me. Its arms are too short, its legs bend the wrong way. It's covered with a tangled mass of dead plants and the skins of tortured animals. It reeks of things dark and slimy and decayed. So we get to choose how we kill it. Whatever it is. I rip its head off. I stick my hand in it. I guess in this one we don't kill it. We just push it away. I will leave chat to decide the fate of this unidentified person. At least I think it's unidentified. It could be Cornell, I guess. Could be, not sure. And I do not recognize this person right there. What does the chat think? Are we ripping heads off? Are we just sticking our hands? Or are we trying to save the thing's life? So we've got Noxifer, I'm voting for stick my hand in it. Very well. What else have we got? Alright, looks like the votes are in then. I won't wait too long, essentially. This is an intense moment. I don't want to lose the intensity, essentially. So we've got a stick my hands in it. I'm gonna go with that. I reach out and stick my fingers in the creature's belly. When I pull my hand back, there are strings attached to it. Not strings. The creature pulls the strings and dances like a marionette, and for a moment it's funny. Then I lose interest. My ears prick and I hear more creatures running blindly through the bushes. I feel better. My leg no longer stings, and I feel better than ever before. Prey, hunt, or is this a dream? While chat votes, I just want to mention that we get health, which is cool, because that's what werewolves do. I like the fact that the way they're handling the first change, at least that's how it happened in all of my playthroughs so far, for one reason or another, you get mortally wounded. It looks like here it was Olga who bit us kind of to death. In my other playthroughs, we got shot by some guards. So in each of those instances, you get to 0 health, which is an intense moment in every playthroughs. And then, as you get into Krynos form, you regenerate, because that's what freaking werewolves do. They regenerate very quickly. So we're already almost back to full health, and this is pretty awesome. Same reason, I'm not going to wait too long. I saw there was a vote for Dream. I'm going to take it. Maybe it's a dream. I think as I move silently through the undergrowth. The creatures are running away. Their backs turn to me. They stumble and shout. Suddenly one of them turns my way. It is terrified. I attack, I roar, or I just look at it. Let's see what chat goes for. Pick the first one that comes up. We are looking at it. I like this. Can you imagine a Krynos just studying you? Like, is it thinking about how it's gonna kill you or rip you apart? It would be so terrifying. I look at it, and the creature curls up, shielding its face with its paws. It keeps talking, but the noises make no sense. I shut it up, or I move on. Oh my god, so interesting. That's not how it happened in my other playthroughs. I really like that we can spare them. And also I like that it costs a willpower to do so. That's a wear mechanic from the game, straight up. Okay, so there was a vote for Roar, but that's gone. Now the first that came up was I shut it up. So we're gonna shut it up. We are not sparing anyone tonight. It annoys me, so I swat it in my hand and it shuts up. Piercing lights burns my eyes. Creatures surround me. They seem to work like a pack. They are dangerous. I Fight them all, I strike them one by one, or I run away. Once again, I'm going to pick whichever first comes up in the chat. One by one. Using our last rage. I hide in the shadows, and they are too slow, too dumb, too clueless to notice me. I strike them down one by one. Some fight back. Some manage to defend themselves briefly, but most of them don't see me coming. A new smell. I look up and see no moon, only clouds and tangled branches. Something changes. Something changed, and I realized how tired I was. I stumbled. Darkness. Nothing was okay. Just was letting the sound finish. The night sky was full of stars. I opened my eyes. Confused, I opened my eyes. The forest around me was thick and dark. The tree trunks, wrapped tightly in dark-leaved ivy, were covered in ripples of lichen where the vines had been taken old. The thorny, leafless bushes at their base were overrun with nettles. The fungi radiated with a ghoulish, sickly green light. Dark, sponge-like mushrooms clung to the fallen trees. Now that was 2 weeks ago, so I'm gonna point it out. Sorry if I'm breaking the intensity here, but this is big. My favorite part of the game, in fact. This is exactly the same lines that were in the very introduction to the game. When Maya was sleeping in the truck, in the bus, sorry. She had a dream. This dream, as it turns out, is a vision. Because we are in this very moment right now. We are in the moment she was dreaming of when she was sleeping in the bus. And it is freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. And these are the exact same choices we had back in the dream as well. I don't remember what we picked back then, but they are the same choices. Now, if you have a good memory, you might remember what the last line of the vision was. I'm gonna leave you with that and let the chat choose what we're gonna pick. But if you remember what was, yes, there's something pretty cool coming up. We have, I tried to breathe, I was cold, or something was wrong. Alright, we have a vote for something was wrong. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Again, just letting the sound play. I looked down and saw my hands covered in a dark substance. I was naked. A sticky, glistening film of liquid was clinging to my skin. I could feel it on my face, in my hair. Blood. I crouched down and planted my palms on the soil, my eyes darting back and forth. I was being watched. I knew what was coming. I remembered my dream and slowly lifted my eyes. There was a severed head right in front of me. Once again, same choice. I felt sick, giving us a rage, or I winced and touched it, losing your willpower. Wondering if I should veto this one. Okay, no, we got a vote with touch, so I'm gonna go for it. That's the one I wanted. You'll see soon why. Overcoming my disgust, I gently touched its wet hair and watched as the head toppled over. The face was contorted, the eyes bulging, the mouth open as though the head was still struggling for air. I recognized that face. In the vision, This is the exact spot where Maya woke up. You don't see who the head belongs to. And if you're sick, I don't remember if you play with the head at all, so I wanted to make sure this scene happened, so thanks for voting for that, Nomad. I recognized that face. It was one of the hunters, the one that had tried to stop me. The head watched me with reproach. I screamed. I cried. I crumbled. Looking at you, chat. Choice of yours. I screamed. Thanks for the rage, Nomad. No! I let out a long, blood-curdling scream. The night swallowed it. The bushes rustled, and a moment later I saw Cornell coming out from between the trees. He looked at me, at the head, at my face. He came closer and squatted beside me. This is what we were trying to tell you, his gray eyes smiled. See, you're a werewolf. I looked at him. I blinked. Everything faded to black. I always found that this line was weird. I don't think he said that to me in this second playthrough that I did, but in my first he said that. This exact same thing. And I'm like, when? When have any of you tried to tell me that I was a werewolf? You want me to pay attention to my dreams? Sure. But it didn't seem like they were making much of an effort to hint me over as to what I was. Of course, in this playthrough, we were always with other mortals around, so that made sense. But I don't feel like it's always the case, especially, for example, in my second playthrough, I wasn't with people a lot. I was going for Aaron, so I was a jerk to everyone. I don't know. Not a fan of this particular line right there. And we made it, people. We made it to chapter 4. So a heck of a lot of things are happening right now. See here already a lot of changes. We've got breed, we've got auspice, we've got our rank, which is cub, and a tribe, unknown. These are all Geru terms, and these are now on our sheet. Not going to spend too much time on it because I want to continue living our first change, so I'm going to go right back to the text, but I did want to point out a couple of things. The changes, and also that we are lupus now. My favorite form. The heart of the forest. The morning smelled of safety, fur, earth, and the forest. I opened my eyes and saw other people cuddling up to me, their muzzles resting on their paws as they slept. Gentle snoring filled the warm space under the low-hanging branches of an old spruce tree. I went outside, or I quietly crawled outside. I think that we are at the Wolf's Den, the place that Daniel took us into. I'm just talking, leaving while the chat votes. But Daniel took us here in chapter 1. There was an oak tree that had that was very meaningful, essentially, there. 2 votes for crawled outside. Let's do that. Quietly, so as not to wake anyone, I crawled outside. Alone, hiding in the tall grass, I sniffed around. The sky was bright and the forest around me was dark and full of interesting smells. High in the trees, birds yelled about status, sex, and violence. I was in danger? Memories started to come back, or something was wrong with that picture. You may remember when we were talking about gifts and senseworm, I believe I mentioned that Maya manifests gifts in this game twice. This is the second time. She understands what the birds are saying here, and that's weird to me. Either she's assuming this. That could be. Maybe she knows birds and knows what they're saying, but it feels to me with the choices there that she can really make out what they're saying. And that's a gift. To be specific, that is a Galliard gift. And I mean, spoiler alert, we're nowhere near Galliard. So, once again, that's the second time we've manifested gifts before having the possibility to learn them. We had a few hints. We had theories last time when we were talking about gifts that maybe her mother taught her some small gifts. That's possible. But once again, well, if it came from her mother would not have cared for tradition at all in the context that she literally tried to take Maya out of the werewolf lifestyle. I mean, so she wouldn't have cared. But it's kind of a big deal that that anyone within Garo society, that you would learn things that you're not entitled to. Rank gives you access to gifts. That's a thing. When you are rank 1, you're allowed to learn gifts for people of rank 1. The name Cliath. When you're a Cliath, you're only allowed to learn those gifts. That's how society works, and that's the deals that people have made with spirits, essentially. So you can learn these gifts if someone teaches them to you. There's nothing metaphysical that prevents it from happening. But you risk angering spirits, going, hey, why are you breaking the law there, buddy? They're not gonna like it very much. Again, if it came from her mother, that's cool. But if it didn't, that's weird. The other thing is, last time we thought that Sense Worm maybe was a witch type thing that wasn't that supernatural, that maybe her mother could have taught him. But literally hearing animals, I didn't say it last time because I didn't want to spoil this, but it's a bigger step, I feel. We'll see. Maybe in W5 they've made away with gifts being tied to ranks. Maybe, I don't know. Food for thought, I suppose. So we have the first vote was for memories. The second for something was wrong with that picture. Are we gonna get more votes out of this to break the tie or not? I'm just gonna give it a few seconds. Anyone? Are we still all of us? Yep. There's a bunch of us still online, so there's a chance. Maybe it's innate as a werewolf, explaining why you have them first thing being Cliath. It's possible. In theory, no. In practice, maybe, I guess. Once again, if you're a cub, you're a cub. You're not a Cliath, so you wouldn't be allowed to learn them. The spirits wouldn't teach them to you. If it's innate, sure, I guess. But it's definitely not something that's mentioned in the books. And if you could innately learn your first 3 gifts, because usually you start play with 3 gifts, I think that's something that should be said. Because it kind of has some implications on the spirit world and how the way gifts work. The way I've played them in my games was always that it was a tradition that at your at your rite of passage, the sept you belong to would take the time to teach you those gifts or convince spirits to teach you your first 3 gifts. That way players are not penalized. Once they start playing, once they are full-fledged members of Garo Society, they still get their 3 gifts right away. To me, that makes more sense. But I mean, you're supposed to have them essentially at character creation, so justify it however you see fit in your game, that's fine. But I don't think there's an official explanation. The fact that here the developers have opted to manifest 2 gifts for Maya, the only reason I'm really talking about it is that it could either be their interpretation, which is completely valid, I mean, especially since there's no real by the book interpretation of it anyway. But also, it could be a hint of things to come. And one of my goals with the dives that I'm doing here is to try to pick apart whatever we can as hints for W5. And this could be one, essentially, is what I'm saying. I don't know, but it could be. Like a blessing from spirit that look upon you. Not innate, but blessings. All right, I know. I see what you mean. It's possible. It's definitely possible. I just don't know. Again, the books, as far as I know, have never said anything about it. It's one of the gray areas that I really hope one day we're going to get an answer to that, an official canonical answer to that, because I've had to rule it several times as a storyteller. When you're playing someone's introduction, if you're playing their lives before they became werewolves, then you have to answer that because it's going to happen. I guess a lot of people probably just don't care. You've got your gifts, spend your XP, good to go. But I care. As a storyteller, I think that spirits should not be vending machines. It shouldn't be just a transaction where you give XP, you get the gifts. I think it's giving a disservice to werewolf to play them this way because it's a very spiritual game. And it's sad if you're not playing the spiritual side of it. Now, I know very well that that's not what Stanel was implying. I know she's a very spiritual player. She's my key third player, actually. So I understand that's not what she hinted at. But I just feel it's connected in a certain way. But yes, it's not that big of a stretch, I agree, to say that maybe your totem or certain spirits that took a liking to you as they were watching you grow, like your kinfetch, for example, or things like that, they may along the way help out by giving you a couple of gifts very close to your first change. It's a valid way of seeing it, I think. Once again, it's not in the books, so you have to explain it one way or another. So here, we have not had more votes, so I'm going to go with whichever came first, which is memories started to come back, I believe. Yes. Something opened in my mind, and memories started flooding back. The run through the night, the bite, the strange dream about being a werewolf. A creature stirred in bushes nearby, a tall, dark silhouette, a strangely familiar smell. I tensed up, or I ran away. Because apparently you can run away. It wasn't an option, I believe, in either of my playthroughs. Either that or I didn't even conceive the option of running away, but I've heard of people who did actively run away. I'm not saying necessarily that's the option that I'm interested in. I'm just saying it's cool that the option is there. But let's see what the chat wants. And we are running. I ran before they noticed me. And by the time they realized, I already had a head start. Shit! Maya, wait! They shouted. We have to talk! I looked back over my shoulder and saw a pack of wolves chasing me through the clearing. Fuck. Fight or flight. The wolves were closing in on me, but they weren't really wolves, were they? They were werewolves, like me. I can either accept and cooperate, I guess that's stop running, or try to escape and deny that I am a werewolf. So we've got Nomad voting for denial, escape. Interesting. All right then. That's what we're doing. Lost in the woods. And we're still lupus. Nice. In my other playthroughs, I never really had a lupus text because I cooperated, so I just shifted back and started talking. I ran, swift and silent, jumping over creeks, slipping under fallen trees, chasing the wind. I could still smell them behind me, even after I'd there panting. That's not me misreading, that's the words. There are probably a missing word somewhere. And the rustle of the leaves was inaudible. I didn't hear their howls as much as I feel them, piercing my skin, gnawing at my legs, slowing me down. The path under my feet was straight and clear. The undergrowth parted before me and closed as I passed, offering me shelter. For a moment, I felt safe. Then, a new smell. Passing an old spruce tree, I smelled musk and electricity, and I realized I wasn't alone. There was a white weasel, jumping from tree to tree. It felt more like a shadow than an animal. To think I took you for the cunning kind, Gaia's child, it whispered, amused. Now look at you, running blind. And a second shadow. A second shadow, bigger and gray, burst from the bushes beside me. She smelled of ash and tears. You're scared, the wolf growled at me. Stop right now. Was I hallucinating? I couldn't believe what I saw. It made no sense. I felt as if my brain was short-circuiting, trying to interpret signals not meant for human senses. Was there really a wolf? Was it really a weasel? Never vote, so I'm going for weasel. When I turned my eyes away from the weasel, it flickered, as if it was just a projection on a broken screen. One moment, an animal. A moment later, just an idea. When it talked, the air smelled of electric discharge, and I felt like the words displayed directly in my mind. But hallucinations or not, they just wouldn't leave me alone. I snarled at them. Was I really talking to them? Or who were they? Not sure how this one removes rage, but maybe it's the acceptance of, I don't know. Gotta vote for who were they, so we're gonna lose rage a bit. Who on earth are you? I asked, exasperated. The wise and benevolent animal spirits sent to enlighten you. I thought that was what the weasel said. Because you were scared and stupid and ran away, added the wolf with a sad grin. The weasel laughed. Welcome to Werewolf 101. Please fasten your seatbelt. What was going on? Who were they, or I let them talk? This is so different from my own playthroughs. Very intrigued. Where's the weasel, though? I mean, that's the wolf, and I guess there's a shape here. I'm not sure. Is that the weasel? It could be the weasel, I suppose. Okay. Talk. Got 2 votes for talk, so we're doing that. I didn't slow down, but I let them talk, as they say. Better the devil you know. So they talked. In the beginning, there was Gaia, aka Mother Earth, and she gave birth to a mighty breed of warriors, the weasel began. It sounded electronical, like a teenager reading a Wikipedia page over a voice chat. They were called Garu, that's werewolves, in Werewolfish, and their sole purpose was to protect Gaia. They failed, wailed the wolf. The path split in 3, or I stopped. I'm hesitating about whether or not I should explain what happened in my playthroughs at this point, because it is so very different. And I was looking forward to this chapter so I could share with everyone what happened in mine, because I was expecting it to happen again. And it's so not happening. And it was awesome. And I'm wondering if I should let it see if it happens next time, or not. We have stop. So here we go. The path, straightforward until then, split in three. One branch I knew. It led to an old oak on the hill. The others were unfamiliar, with the first leading to a bright clearing and the second deep into the dark woods. There were shadows moving between them, whispering to me. I stopped, only to hear the howling behind my back getting closer. I looked to the weasel for advice, or I looked at the wolf. Oh, the weasel's there. Was he there before? He's behind the wolf. Oh, I think they're playing with the contrasts to lighten up things. Oh, wow, that's cool. I did not notice that. And here, by the way, are two more wolf faces. Way back there, like it feels like they're trees, but and they are, but they're also wolves. And that makes so much sense now that I realize it. I will explain that later. We have a vote for the weasel, so we're gonna take it. Which way should I go? I looked to the weasel for advice, but it only shrugged with a wry smile. When time began, Gaia released three primal forces upon the earth: the weaver, the wild, and the worm. Let's just see what the game has to say about their definition. As I said, I would be reading those. The earth, in both a physical and spiritual sense, the mother goddess. Weaver, manifestation and symbol of order and pattern. Wild, manifestation and symbol of pure change, the chaos of transmutation and elemental force. Worm, manifestation and symbol of evil, entropy, and decay in Garu belief. Not quite accurate, but okay, let's go with that for now. The entropy part is correct. The rest, The wild was... Oh, they might explain more, so let's go with it. The wild was the untamed force of life and creation. The cold, ruthless weaver gave structure to the world, and the worm destroyed what needed to be destroyed, creating balance. There we go. That's the correct definition of the triad. That's what they're known together, these three spirits. Shit happened, and the worm became corrupted. But corruption and the other one is not what the worm is about. It's what he became about when he lost his mind, essentially. So either I dove into the darkness, I kept to the middle path, or I ran towards the light. And we're going with darkness. I was blinded the moment I stepped onto the path. I could still hear the weasel. But then the weaver grew too ambitious and trapped the worm within its lifeless web. The weasel's voice continued in the darkness. I was trapped. My paws sank into the mud, and rotting branches coiled around my neck, pulling me down, choking me. Confined and denied, the worm slowly went insane. A foul stench like meat rotting in acid hit me. I started trashing. Change! Came a snarled command. I think it was the wolf. Suddenly I understood. It was as if I'd always known, always had this set of skills. I'd only chosen not to use them up to this point. I felt like I was about to stretch after a long day of sitting down and learning anatomy. It would be painful, but I wanted to do this. I let my rage take over. I willed a new form, or I cleared my mind. Not quite how it works. At least not for anyone that isn't Metis born, because Metis just kind of learn to shapeshift and eventually they can do it. The other two auspices, Lupus and Hamid, so whether you're born as a wolf or born as a man, they just can't until their first change. I let my rage take over as the chat has chosen, and my body listened. I changed. So here we get to choose what we're changing to get unstuck in the mud, apparently. A bit overkill to get unstuck in the mud by shifting, but hey, that's what's happening. So we can go to Hispo, which is defined as a monstrous wolf, smart, fast, heavy, and absolutely scary. That's very true. We have the Krynos, is the war form, a ruthless killing machine. There's nothing subtle about it. It's very true. Glabro is strong enough to lift heavy things without breaking a sweat and intimidate. And Hamid is the human form, perfect for talking and manipulating things, of which is very accurate. Let's see what the chat thinks. Are we going overkill? Extremely overkill. Should work, and meh. We are overkill. Okay, just to be clear, are we overkill or extremely overkill? Well, we ever vote for Hispo, and I said that Hispo was the overkill. So I'm thinking we're Hispoing, but I just want to make sure that chat gets what it wants. Okay, so pretty much everyone is voting for Hispo, instead of justifying it with "there is still wolf running at you." That's extremely true. So let's go Hispo. I was Hispo, the monstrous wolf form. The pain was overwhelming. My spine cracked and twisted. My knees and ankles broke, and I fell on the ground. My jaw shattered and rearranged itself. My whole skin was on fire, rippling and sprouting fur. I howled in agony. When I rose, panting and spitting blood, I was Hispo, with strong paws, mighty jaws, and a mane of fur, more than wolf, scary and monstrous. It was easy. Change came easier than I expected. The world shifted. Not much, but enough. My bones grew longer. I felt my teeth get sharper and muscles stronger. The vines tightened. Okay. The thorny vines coiled tighter, tangling into my fur. Good, but it's not enough. The weasel shook its head. So I can either spend a willpower to apparently claim that I knew what to do, or I could change again. It sounds like they're telling me to go Krynos, I think, because it says not enough. So if Hispo is not enough, then obviously what would be enough is Krynos. But once again, I will follow. And we've got changed, so here we go. And this one, so the chat is going with overkill, which I like. I should have presented it this way. That's the correct way of doing it. Yes, we're overkilling. Pain hits me like a wrecking ball. Every bone in my body breaks and moves and resets. I roar in agony, panting and growling. I rise and rise and rise. I'm an 8-foot-tall killing machine. My bones change shape, my muscles bloom. Nothing can hurt me. Nothing can trap me. Nothing can defeat me. I roar! I roar and tear at the rotten thorny vines. I feel stronger than ever before. I slash. Or I shift again? I mean, why wouldn't I try to get free? Not sure where... Unless we're saying that now that we're big, we could just quickly switch not Hispo, but Lupus and run out of the way. But I mean, we just got to Krynos, so come on. We're gonna slash, right? Yeah, we're slashing. Perfect. Chat is agreeing with that. Let's slash. Then, the text is I kept slashing, and then I collapsed. I continue until there's no anger left in me. I was human again, naked and shivering after the adrenaline rush. Now, Gaia is dying, choked by the weaver and eaten alive by the worm. The weasel said as it climbed on my shoulder. And you cannot reason with the worm, snarled the wolf. You only can fight it. I prickled my ears. I heard wolves getting closer and closer. Our packs are almost here, the weasel said, jumping up and down excitedly. Be a good cub, growled the gray wolf, and stay put. So I waited, or so I ran. This is interesting because I don't think I've had that explanation before, ever. And it's weird, because you get more information about the cosmology of Werewolf the Apocalypse if you run than if you collaborate and you let the other werewolves tell you everything. That's a bit odd to me as a choice. Because I felt like this bit right there was missing from the game. I'm glad to see it's there. Personally, I think I would have made that bit mandatory, especially because later on one of the characters says, well, you know enough now to make certain important choices. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't really know. There's a couple of things that's missing, I think, that I should know before I make these important decisions. So it's cool that they're there. It kind of feels like it should have been there either way, whichever direction you choose, but that's just me. So we got 2 votes for waited, so let's do that. This time, I decided to wait. I was tired of running. The pack gathered around me, and although there were wolves, I understood every word they said. You need to see something. And we ran. Vision Quest. You're a cub, so you have special privileges, said the weasel. Pushta will grant you a vision. You must see to understand, said the wolf. Think carefully before you choose what to see. So now we get to choose whether we're going to have a vision of the past, and therefore our family, a vision of the present, which I guess is the vision of the forest, or the future, our destiny. Personally, I chose past in my first playthrough and future in my second playthrough. When I chose future, that eventually led to the thing we've just seen where there's a prophecy at the beginning of the game, or at least a vision, and the vision becomes exactly true midway through the game. It happened twice for me in my second playthrough. When I had my vision of the future, it also came through later, which is pretty damn cool. I really loved how the game did that. And we have a choice of present, so we're... I'm wondering, do we have enough activity to go with... essentially... waiting for people to tell us, or do I pick at the first one? Let's see. If I have a third choice, quickly in the next few seconds, I will pile them up. Okay, so we've got a third vote for present. Okay, so we're going for that. That's gonna be new for me. Cool. The ever-changing paths. It was hard to find it then, although I knew where it was. After I stepped on yet another sharp stone, I gave up any false pretense and let my animal side take over. I turned into a wolf. I felt the Pushta playing with me, twisting paths, blocking my way with bushes and dead trees, and then suddenly opening a new path that was straight and full of sunshine. I got tired of it, but I pushed on. while the chat tells me what they want to see, I just want to point out that what you've just seen, if you're not used to Werewolf the Apocalypse, is fine, and it's true, and it works, but it's a bit incomplete regarding the triad. I might get into that eventually, but right now I'm gonna stop soon because I think I can keep this to 2 hours. I'm gonna do the vision and I'm gonna stop there. Probably what's gonna happen is next week I'm gonna open with some more explanation on the triad, because there's more to say there, and important things to be said, I believe, for a lot of Werewolf to make sense. They've said, for example, that the worm is eating Gaia, but they're not exactly saying why, and that's important. That's a pretty big deal, actually. And it's going to put a lot of things in perspective when we talk about tribes and their philosophies, especially if we talk about tribes like the Black Spiral Dancers, which I've mentioned before, are on the side of the worm. Why would their tribe, who thinks that helping the worm is a good thing? Well, we're going to talk about that next week, I believe, when we open. And chat has chosen to push on, so let's do that. Determined, I pushed on. The forest was different. When I was running on 4 legs... Sorry, that was a single sentence. Apologies. The forest was different when I was running on 4 legs. Paths shifted, and what was once a blockade was now an opening. Smells were my guide, more efficient than human eyes. The smell of ash and old blood, bone and whetstones. Then I was there. An old den, hidden in the roots of a crooked pine. I crouched down. I crouched and looked into the hole. A sudden gust of wind brought with it the almost imperceptible smell of wolf cubs. I lay down under the tree and closed my eyes. I could feel the sun, or I breathed it in. It's unclear if the vision is already started or not. I'm not very clear on that. I think when I chose past or present in the other playthroughs, it was immediate. I was just immediately in a vision right then and there. Sounds like here we're running through the forest? Not sure. We are breathing in. I breathe in, and it fills me with peace and warmth. The wind rustles through the leaves, and the air smells of sweet dew and greenery. The sun shines on me. Okay, now that is the vision. Okay, perfect. Then again, it might make sense because we ran away, we had to get back, and then we could get the vision. In my earlier playthroughs, I was led to the mounds, the places where there were two mounds. One of the we visited that essentially in chapter 1 when we went into the forest. The ever-changing present. I close my eyes and extend my hands and feel my fingers dip into the thickness of the grass that covers the earth. I hear a whisper. I am the grass, it whispers to me. I cover everything. A bird flies over the forest. The trees move their branches like green undulating waves over an endless ocean. I see trees, or I see sickness. Well, there's a lot of bugs in there, which are probably references to the bugs that is eating the forest, the very reason why they justified the logging in the first place, which is also probably what they're going for here when they're saying I see sickness, I think. Sickness is what we're going with. I see trees that are eaten by bugs. Okay, so that was it. They desiccate and die. I see loggers. Or I see hunters. Both of which will give us back a bit of rage. Where do we stand in the character sheet? Still pretty high on all of this. Okay. So we're going with the hunters. Humans come and feed the animals, only to shoot them. I see loggers again, or I see humans destroying the forest. I guess the humans destroying the forest would be the loggers, though, wouldn't it? Is there a third group I'm not aware of that is attacking the forest? That could be interesting. And we're voting for destroying, so let's find out. The forest tries to heal itself, but nobody notices the sickness. Humans turn the forest into a desert. I am not alone. I can feel the forest breathing, long, deep inhales and exhales, and I can feel every living creature breathing together with it. Look again, they said. It will change nothing, says the ash-gray wolf. You must act. And I look, or I have seen enough. Okay. So the animals of the forest essentially are all telling me that I should be looking again. But the wolf, the big wolf that we were talking to with the weasel, thinks it's pointless. Just go and do something. Okay, I'm gonna go again back to whichever one comes first, just to keep things going. And I think we're back to just one or two active participants, so it's going to be more efficient this way. Because we have a tie again, and we'd have to breed it. So I look again. I see trees. Oh, okay, so now we're seeing the other side, essentially. Good. I see trees that are eaten by bugs. They desiccate and die. I see loggers. Or I see foresters. So this sickness made us angry. We gained rage. And now that we're seeing trees, we're losing rage as we're noticing people. Okay. We're seeing the foresters. I see foresters cleaning the festering wounds in the forest to help it heal itself. I now see loggers, or I see humans living in the forest. So I guess now we're being positive about it. The other one made us angry. We saw the sickness, we wanted to fight it. Now we're being serene about it. We're seeing the forest healing itself. This is pretty cool. It's exactly what I meant in my review, if you've seen it. I said there were times when the game uses the ebb and flow of stats like rage, willpower, and health to communicate a feeling that they couldn't communicate with just text. And this is what they're doing right here. They're pissing you off, making you angrier because things are going bad for the forest, and then they're giving you this option here where, well, humans are trying, and they're making us feel serene about it, which is pretty damn cool. We've got 2 votes for living in the forest, so we're going to go with that. I see a man sitting motionless against a tree trunk, and a little squirrel walking down to him, curious. I've seen enough, I say. The absurdity of the situation hits me. I am a human. I am a wolf. I am a killer. I am a healer. And I do not know what to do. I am hangry and scared. Or I feel like a part of the forest. Part of the forest. I am the forest, the world says to me. Let me work. So I let it go. I let it go, and I am a tree and a man and a squirrel. A man opened his hand, singular. There's an acorn there. A squirrel grabs it, and runs away. I see a little girl laughing, delighted when she sees it. I open my eyes. I opened my eyes and saw the wolf looking at me. Come with me. It is in your blood, she said to me. There is no one else to be my cub. Come to me, child. I will nurse you, and I will lick your wounds. We will kill together. We will feast, and we will be merry. The forest will grow. I looked at her. Perhaps for the first time. I saw her for who she was. Her pelt was marred with fire. Her eyes were smoking embers. Ash was falling from her heaving flanks. She looked old, ancient, sad and alone. She was mourning, incarnated, or she was Kazan's mother. If you don't remember, Kazan is the wolf, one of the wolves that got quote unquote kidnapped in the forest, and he became a very public, well, not person because it's a wolf, but he was a very important wolf essentially for the Polish people, sort of an icon, I guess, until he died, unfortunately. And we're voting for Kazan's mother, so we're going for that. She was Kazan's mother, mourning her stolen cubs, howling in the woods, waiting for a response that never came. But she was more than that. She was also the Pushta. She was more than one wolf. Or, she was the darkness. We're going with the Pushta. She was also the spirit of the forest, the Pushta herself, wounded, hurt, violated, and mourning all her children that humans had killed. At least, that was what I thought when I looked at her. The wolf mother looked back at me, and something in her eyes made me realize that she was helping my family for generations, and that my family used to serve her. Join me, she pleaded. Only you can understand me. Only you. I went to her, but I walked away into the forest. We've already got Stanil voting for walked away, so we're going to take that. Mourning wolf. Cautious. Interesting. In all of my playthroughs, she was called the wolf mother. And even here, we did say that. But I guess because we're not backing her, we're going away, she's something else now. That's interesting. I took a step back, then another, and turned and disappeared into the trees. Do not fool yourself, the wolf cried to me. Peace is never an option. The wind howled. One of us. A lone howl pierced the silence like a single ray of moonlight in the darkness. Then there was another one, and then another, and then another. A choir of voices, triumphant and joyful. I opened my eyes. When I opened my eyes, I was in a clearing. Around me, there were wolves, huge, monstrous wolves, howling at the moon. Werewolves, just like me. I realized that was my life now. In a moment of bittersweet reflection, I understood that my old life was over. Maya, the student, was a part of the past. My present, my future was now forever linked to what happened in the forest. Well, hello there, Cornell smiled at me. "And welcome to the Sept." The what? Sept, whatever that meant, or I just listened. I'm going to stop there for tonight, because if we start the next bit, we're definitely not going to finish at 10. The next bit is pretty big, and we're probably going to have a lot to talk about. And I think it would be best to have those conversations after I've properly explained the triad. And also, one of the tribes is going to be mentioned has actually been rather, let's just say, quite discussed in its portrayal. And I want to bring that up. I want to talk about it, but I want to have the time to do it properly. So it's something that we're going to be doing next week, because half an hour is just not enough time to do that. So I guess I pissed off Nomad there because he's going. But yeah, no, that's definitely what we're doing though. Unfortunately, there's just too much to cover here, and I want to cover it properly. So that's going to be that for now. Thank you very, very, very much for coming, everyone. It was a blast as usual. What I will discuss though, if you don't want spoilers, have a good night. Feel free to leave. But if you don't mind spoilers, I will be telling you a bit more about what happened in my playthrough. While it's fresh and while we've just discussed it, it's going to have more impact than if I mention it later. So stick around if you want to chat a little bit about the game and the various options. So in my first playthrough, which I still think of as the most intense one that I have had, I've had a pretty awesome experience with the bit we've just played tonight. In my version, I had sided with Olga, and instead of putting up signs, we went to mess up with the machines. We went back to the logging site and essentially painted on the machines. But then guards showed up. And things did not go well, essentially. As I said before, remember, I explained a bit earlier that in my version, Anya was with us at the time. And if you remember, also, I mentioned that I told her, you know what, you should stay behind. I had a bad feeling. We were going on the offensive, and I didn't want her to be hurt. But then she said, nah, man, I'm sticking around. You're my friend, and I'm going to stay with you. It even said, Anya is loyal. So I felt really connected to her at that particular time. So when the first change started, I knew she was nearby. The guard shot me to 0 health. It wasn't Olga biting me. It was the guards shooting that brought me to 0 health in that playthrough. And then I started shifting. And when you're in frenzy, especially your first change, you don't have much of a say. You're just gonna kill everything. So the description wasn't really telling me who I was attacking. And I assumed that it was the guards, right? It made sense. They're shooting at me, so they would be the ones that I would be butchering. And there were a lot of heads that were being butchered. So I just assumed and reveled in the destruction of my first change. I was just lashing out into these people. So when we went into the vision, that was my first time experiencing that. So I had a really awesome moment of, wow, they're bringing me right back to the vision in the beginning. I was mind blown at that point. It was amazing. And then I took the head in my hands and it said, "Oh, I recognize that face." And then I remembered, fuck, Anya was nearby all that time. And I clicked. And I was holding Anya's head in my freaking hands. I had killed my friend. It was intense, to say the least. It was really a moment where I was like, whew, I need a break. This is a lot. It was really a gut punch. It was amazing. I really loved it. To me, this is a great example of a first change, because it's meant to be a traumatic event. Here we killed a bunch of hunters. It's bad, sure, but we didn't really know these people, so we didn't really land, and it's fine. In my second playthrough, I killed. It did say that the guards are the people that I killed. Maya was not with me the second time, so the only people they really could kill were the guards, so it makes sense. But I'm glad my first playthrough happened the way that it happened. It was really well, I'm gonna say it again because that's the best word. It was really a gut punch. The only reason Anya, was there was because she was loyal to me. She was there because she was a good friend, and that got her killed. Whew. And then, the next day, because that's not even all. That's not even over. The next day, I didn't run. I was just too distraught to run. I was just like, what the heck is happening, right? So Carnell showed up and tried to reassure me, but he also said, well, we tried to warn you. You didn't listen, and now look what happened. Your friend is dead. So now you're gonna have to bury her. The frickin' game made me carry my friend's body on my shoulders through the forest, from the wolf's den, all the way through the mounds, dig up her grave, put her in there, and then put the earth back on top of her. It was probably one of the most emotionally meaningful moment I've ever had playing a video game. It really landed with me. I felt it. It was hard, but it also I agreed with Carnell. It makes sense. This was my responsibility to do. Even now, thinking back on it, I'm still feeling things. So that was really, really awesome, really well made. There are a couple of things, as we've discussed, that I think, however, could be better with these turn events, in the sense that what it led to was that I spoke to the spirits while I was carrying her body on my shoulders, and they really didn't say as much as they just did right there. It was much shorter, and I really wasn't in that much of a mood to listen to them anyway. So it was very different, and it was awesome emotionally, role-playing, drama-wise. It was the best playthrough I've had thus far, by far. However, I think this path also has something very important, which is the extra bit of lore. I would have made that bit mandatory, to be honest. I think Chapter 4 has a lot of space for it to go into that, but they didn't. So it's fine. They give you enough to get an idea, but I still feel like I wanted a little bit more to go on as I played the game, and I'm glad that it's there. I just feel like it should have been a bit more prevalent. So on those good words, Stenel says, maybe it's why you didn't have the try it thing, because I did my playthrough and didn't run. Why you weren't in the mood to listen. So you had the whole try it thing is what you're saying, in your playthrough despite not running. Yes, it's there. They mention the names in the other path. It's just not as deep. They say here, essentially, Gaia, she made werewolves, and then there are the three members of the triads, and they say you have to fight the worm in short terms, and then Maya gets to say, so werewolves are creatures of the wild weaver or worm, and then the spirit is a bit angry that you're being so thick about it. No, they're creatures of Gaia or something like that. And here, there, I felt like this was not much longer, but just a couple of lines longer that just gave the extra bit of explanation that I felt was missing on the other side. Or maybe I'm misremembering. That's entirely possible. That's one of the reasons why I want to replay all of these things with all of you. Because remember, when I played that was September, so that's already 2 months ago for me. So I just might be misremembering. That's entirely possible. And I want to see all of the different variations of the game by playing this game a couple of times with all of you. So next time, let's say we don't run, just to see if I'm misremembering and if I'm the one that's off. It could be. It really could be. Or as you said, maybe I didn't get it that time because I was carrying Anya's body. That's very much possible, to be honest. And in that particular playthrough, it does make a heck of a world of sense. However, I think I didn't really get those extra couple of sentences in my second playthrough either, so I'm just not sure. But we'll look into that, and we'll talk about it again. For now, however, that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you very much for joining us. Next week, we're going to be talking about the triads quite a bit more, and then we're going to dive into the rest of this chapter. There's a lot of exposition coming for general concepts of Werewolf the Apocalypse. So if you want to learn more about the setting, more about Werewolf, next week is going to be the week to be here. So very good evening to all of you, and see you all next week. Thank you for coming.